George Washington Carver was an agriculture scientist and inventor who developed hundreds of products using peanuts, though not peanut butter as is often claimed, sweet potatoes, and soybeans. Born into slavery before it was outlawed, Carver left home at a young age to pursue education and who would eventually earn a master's degree in agriculture science from Iowa State University. He would go on to teach and conduct research at Tuskegee University for decades, and soon after his death, his childhood home would be named a national monument, the first of its kind to honor a Black American. Born on a farm near Diamond, Missouri, the exact date of Carver's birth is unknown, but it's thought he was born in January or June of 1864. 9 years prior, Moses Carver, a white farmer owner, purchased George Carver's mother, Mary, when she was 13 years old. The elder Carver reportedly was against slavery, but needed help with his 240-acre farm. When Carver was an infant, he, his mother, and his sister were kidnapped from the Carver farm by one of the bands of slave raiders that roamed Missouri during the Civil War era. They were resold in Kentucky. Moses Carver hired a neighbor to retrieve them, but the neighbor only succeeded in finding George, whom he purchased by trading one of Moses' finest horses. Carver grew up knowing little about his mother or his father, who had died in an accident before he was born. Moses Carver and his wife Suzanne raised the young George and his brother James as their own and taught the boys how to read and write. James gave up his studies and focused on working the fields with Moses. George, however, was a frail and sickly child who could not help with such work. Instead, Suzanne taught him how to cook, mend, broder, do laundry, and garden, as well as how to concoct simple herbal medicines. At a young age, Carver took a keen interest in plants and experimented with natural pesticides, fungicides, and soil conditioners. He became known as the plant doctor to local farmers due to his ability to discern how to improve the health of their own gardens, fields, and orchids. At age 11, Carver left the farm to attend an all-black school in nearby town of Neosho. He was taken in by Andrew and Mariah Watkins, a childless black couple who gave him a roof over his head in exchange for help with the household chores. A midwife and nurse, Mariah imparted on Carver her broad knowledge of medical, herb, and devout faith. Disappointed with the education he received in No-Show School, Carver moved to Kansas about 2 years later, joining numerous other blacks who were traveling west. For the next decade or so, Carver moved from one Midwestern town to another, putting himself through school and surviving off of domestic skills, and he learned from his foster mothers. He graduated from Minneapolis High School in Minneapolis, Kansas in 1880 and applied to Highland College in Kansas, today Highland Community College. He was initially accepted at an all-white college, but was later rejected when the administration learned he was black. In the late 1800s, Carver befriended Mahollins, a white couple in Winterset, Iowa, who encouraged him to pursue a higher education despite his former setback. He enrolled in a Simpson College, a Methodist school that admitted all qualified applicants. Carver initially studied art and piano in hopes of earning a teaching degree, but one of his professors, Etta Budd, was skeptical of a black man being able to make a living as an artist. After learning of his interest in plants and flowers, Budd encouraged Carver to apply to Iowa State Agriculture School, now Iowa State University, to study botany. In 1894, Carver became the first African American to earn a Bachelor of Science degree. Impressed by Carver's research on the fungal infection of soybean plants, his professor asked him to stay on for graduate studies. Carver worked with famed mycologist, fungi scientist L.H. Pamel at the Iowa State Experimental Station, honing his skills in identifying and treating plant diseases. In 1896, Carver earned his Master of Agriculture degree and immediately received offers, the most attractive of which came from Booker T. Washington, who, last name George, would later add to his own, of Tuskegee University in Alabama. Washington convinced the university's trustees to establish an agriculture school which could only be run by Carver if Tuskegee was to keep its all-black facility. Carver accepted the offer and would work at Tuskegee Institute for the rest of his life. Carver's earlier years at Tuskegee were not without hiccups. For one, agriculture training was not popular. Southern farmers believed they already knew how to farm, and students saw schooling as a means to escape farming. Additionally, many faculty members resented Carver for his high salary and demand to have dormitory rooms, one for him and one for his plant specimens. Carver also struggled with the demands of the faculty position he held. He wanted to devote his time to researching agriculture for ways to help out poor Southern farmers, but he was also expected to manage the school's two farms, ensure the school's toilets and sanitary facilities worked properly, and sit on multiple committees and councils. Carver and Washington had complicated relationship, would butt heads often, in part because Carver wanted little to do with teaching. Though he was beloved by his students, Carver would eventually get his way when Washington died in 1915 and was succeeded by Robert Ruza Motown, who relieved Carver of his teaching duties except for summer school.